Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, our guest is Jim Urtel, horse trainer, kidney failure patient, dialysis patient for 8 years, complicated kidney transplant recipient, now needs a second kidney transplant, kidney advocate, and videographer. Jim's kidney story begins in July of 2012 when he was diagnosed with kidney failure as a result of high blood pressure, 232 over 112, and sleep apnea. Was still a fairly young guy and has been a horse trainer since he was 12 years old. He was forced to give up horse training and harness racing after 30 years. He was placed on dialysis and waited a long 8 years before he finally got the call in July of 2020 from URMC in Rochester, New York. Unfortunately for Jim, the deceased kidney that he received was improperly pre-screened as it had 40 to 50% scar tissue that was not discovered until after his transplant in a biopsy. Jim was basically in stage 4 kidney failure after his transplant. His doctor told him that this scarred kidney would probably only last about 2 years before he either received a second kidney transplant or was returned to dialysis. Specialists were called in to help to get his blood pressure under control. He began a diet and exercise program that helped him lose 50 pounds. To this day, almost 5 years after transplant and 13 years after his diagnosis, Jim has managed to keep this transplanted kidney viable, but it continues to deteriorate. Despite setbacks such as side effects from his medications and physical limitations, Jim remains committed. He is now seeking a living kidney donor if possible. And as we will see, he has taken giant steps in his attempt to find a donor, but has currently suffered a number of false starts. Right now, he is listed at ECMC at their transplant center. The phone number there, 716-898-5001. That's 716-898-5001. He wants to be here for his wife and his aging parents. He does videos on his own YouTube channel to educate other kidney patients and answer their questions. He works with Kidneys for Communities to help others. Jim believes he can continue to, quote unquote, beat the odds like he has done before with his racehorse and his kidney disease by finding his donor. Please give a warm welcome to a true kidney warrior. The great Jim Urtel is with us tonight. Jim, how you doing, buddy?
How we doing, Jim? How's it going? Thanks for having me on. Very good to be interviewed by somebody who's also had the kidney disease. So glad to be here.
Glad you're here. So, did I state everything correctly in the introduction?
Yeah, it seems pretty accurate. Unfortunately, yeah, it's been kind of a rough road, but I'm still here and still doing the battle. So still positive and moving forward.
Great, great. Please tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education, and your employment experiences.
Yeah, I grew up in a town called Leroy, New York. It's Western New York, maybe about an hour from Rochester, close to that, about the same to Buffalo. Now I live in a town called Batavia, which is just up the road. But yeah, I went through high school there, and I got involved with the racehorses at a young age. My father there, he had a friend who was into that. Bill Verney, his name was. And as a kid, I would go to the farm with him, and right away I fell in love with the horses, and I kind of always pursued that. My father had horses, and I helped with him as I got older. I went on the road, and I trained him, and I did all aspects. I've owned them, trained them, worked for other people as a groom. I did everything but actually drive them. But I was a little big to be in the bike for driving them, but I did it every day as far as during the daytime. And that's kind of it. I kind of was all over the East Coast, a little bit in Canada a few times, and And I've always stayed kind of in the New York, more or less New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey area. Kind of, that's pretty much where I was with the horses. But and I did that until the diagnosis with the kidney disease, which hit me out of the, hit me like a ton of bricks out of nowhere. And that kind of shut the horses down.
Okay. Are you a married man? Do you have children, grandchildren?
I don't have any kids or grandkids. I'm not married, but I've been with the same woman for 30 years, just about now. It's been a long time. With the medical issues and stuff, kind of put a little bit of a damper as far as being married with the insurance and everything else that comes with that. But yeah, been together for 30 years, so it's been a long time. But no kids.
I understand with the horse racing and the horse trainer thing, you started when you were 12 with your dad, and I understand you did this for 30 years. Is that correct?
Yep, pretty much. That was the main thing I would do for the 30 years. Here or there, I did a few things with construction and stuff, working like that, and maybe painting houses. But mainly it was always the horses, right up until I got sick. And like I say, I did a lot with him. When me and my father had them as a kid and stuff, he got a lot of cheap horses other people didn't want. Kind of a lot of times when the people don't want them anymore, they'll Amish them if they can't sell them. So horses with big problems. And we were at a cheaper track as far as back then, Batavia Downs, right here in my hometown. They weren't one of the bigger circuit racetracks, so there was a lot of cheaper horses anyway there. And but that's where I learned, there and working with some of the guys around this track here, some trainers. I've worked for a lot of people throughout the years, and everywhere I was in the horse business. I mean, once I got older, I went out on the road and went to different tracks. But everybody I worked for, you always try to learn something. At least I did. I learned from a lot of different people. I kind of take that same idea with the kidney stuff. I'm involved in so many groups and everything. You keep learning stuff every day, So it's kind of the same thing, same thing.
Your father had some cheaper horses with issues, and sometimes you were able to bring them back and win races. You had experience with Trotter TC Express, seven-time winner.
Yeah.
Right? 7 times winner on the Batavia circuit. And Hollyview Snap winner at the Pocono Downs.
We had. The TC Express was one of the last horses I had with him when I came back from the Poconos and all that stuff later years. But in earlier years when I was younger, we had horses. Wilco was brass, Elmo Hanover. I mean, there was a whole bunch. I got a big book full of them. Like, you get a win picture when you win the race. They take an 8x10. So I got a couple few albums behind me over there in the bookshelf of a lot of win pictures over the years, with him and a lot of other people, a lot of the trainers I worked for and horses I trained myself, in later days.
You learn that despite what others may think, especially with these cheaper horses, sometimes you can beat the odds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the horses, there's horses that race with so much as some of them have fractured bones, they'll split bones. There's certain ones they can go with. I mean, they got suspensory issues, ligament issues. I mean, you got to keep them going. I was pretty good with lame horses. You'll get them in the whirlpools and, a whole lot of techniques, different leg paints that we can make up and you use on them and stuff. That's kind of the game. You've got to beat the rest of them. So when you can bring them back, and that's kind of where I've learned how to read the blood. Like, we would do the blood on take the blood draws on them pretty much every week. A lot of the bigger trainers and stuff, and they're an athlete, so you'd have to look the blood over, give them what they need, the iron, all this stuff to build them up. That's where I kind of learned. My doctors, they hate it because you go and they'd be, hey, your blood looks okay. I'm like, yeah, doc, what about that hematocrit and that hemoglobin and this? Yeah, they're like, whoa, what do you know about that stuff? I'm like, I know more than you think, but. So yeah, it's kind of wild, but a whole lot of stuff. The way you feed them, different nutrition, different additives and stuff. I mean, you got to get the edge somehow, and that's what the racing's all about.
Well, Jim, you've kind of applied this thing about beating the odds to your kidney situation too, haven't you?
Yeah, like that's I say. Well, we had a horse like that has problems, and you could bring them. A lot of them got just that heart to go. They got the will to keep on rolling. They get called a war horse. And that's kind of the attitude I take it. I'm the war horse now. I mean, they can do what they can win races. They can do their best. They need a little help. Right now, I'm kind of in that situation. I can still keep rolling, and I think I'm all right, but I need some help. It's and that's kind of comes with the donor, and that's where you're at. But yeah, that's it. I'm the war horse now.
Do you miss working with horses now?
Yeah, the horses themselves, I mean, you miss it. The business is a tough business. I mean, I did it for all them years, but it's tough. I think, for a lot of the horse people, it's a tough job. You really got to love it to do it. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, gee, you race horses? Well, heck, you go race them there at night and then you're all done. And, the horses are 24/7, basically. You got to care for them all the time. Like, there's no days off. There's no nothing. I remember my friends be like, hey, we're going camping. You want? No, can't do it. You got to be here. They got to eat. They got to do everything. I mean, every day they go out, they exercise. The nights you race, I mean, it's a tough life too. Like a lot of them grooms, I didn't. I always had a place living on the side. A lot of them live right on the track. I mean, they're some of them really tough. The diet and stuff they get. And you're up at 5 a.m. You got to go out, start working them. You might get a break in the afternoon for an hour or two. Go eat lunch, probably at a fast food joint. Go home, get a quick nap, come back. If you're racing that night, you got to race. Sometimes you're there till midnight, 1 o'clock, putting them away, and you got to get right back at it again at 5, 6 in the morning the next day. If you're shipping horses on the road, you got to get in the truck, and it's just kind of a crazy, monotonous life. You don't think about it when you're younger, but I mean, after what happened with me and everything, it was mainly sleep apnea that caused me, but I'm sure the stress and just the everyday wear and tear, and not the proper dieting and everything. I think that probably takes a toll.
Okay. Please describe for us your current disabilities, physical and mental issues.
Pretty much. I mean, I've always been okay with the mental part of it. I mean, I know you've got to stay positive, and I do a lot of the Zoom meetings now with a lot of different kidney groups and stuff with patients that there's people that are on there. I've been on dialysis for 2 years, man. How the heck are you doing? You did it for 8 years and then went through a kidney transplant, and you're sitting here smiling at us and being positive. Like, yeah, I mean, I just want them to know that you could still be okay. I mean, I've done my DEXA scans and stuff. My bones are still in good shape. My heart didn't take a beating like a lot of the, 8 years of dialysis it's a long time for dialysis, but I've been kind of lucky. I mean, I always had a treadmill, and I would do it on the days of you're pretty drained, but and every day that I was off, I walked on the treadmill 2-3 miles, and I kept as good as I could, and it kept me in pretty decent shape while on dialysis. And then afterwards, I found a group right after this transplant. I was in kind of rough shape. We'll get into that probably later, but for a year I was in pretty bad shape. Finally, I found a workout group called the Fit Father Project, and that helped me immensely. I have to say, I probably wouldn't be here without them, because with the meds and everything, even though I was still walking on the treadmill, taking in 16 to 1,800 calories a day, I would still gain 0.3, 0.5, and it was getting up there. And that's where finally I knew I got to do something. This isn't going to be good. I reached out to my nutritionist and asked her, I says, look, I walk on it. She goes, you got to add aerobics or something of some sort. And that's where she recommended the bands, the elastic bands, because of my fistula, not too much, and I seeked it out on YouTube looking for, I bought a set, and I said, okay, let me see if I can find a program. And I found the Fit Father Project. He also does the Fit Mother, which it was a thing for a fit mother with those bands. But I looked into the group, but they had a contact number. I sent them an email, and he answered me the next day. I said, look, I'm a kidney transplant patient. I want to lose weight. I'd like to try the program. And it was a diet and exercise program. He messaged me right away back. He says, listen, I would like to work with you. He goes, I want to make sure you're in contact with your doctor so we don't do nothing to hurt you, but I know I can help you. And I'm like, okay, his name is Dr. Anthony Balducci. I says, all right, Dr. A. I says, good, I'm on board. And sure enough, that's how we looked at it. I talked to my doctors. They said, sure, okay, as long as you don't do nothing too crazy to hurt that fistula or whatnot. And that's where we went. And I started doing, they have routines and the diet. I mean, I was only taking in 16 to 1,800 calories, but there's certain ways you can help that. And I mean, I cut out any butter, anything. Like, I really had to get very much onto it, but it started working, and I started losing, and eventually I lost 53 pounds by the end of it. And that definitely helped this kidney stay as it did. So I'm all for the fitness.
Let's talk about when you discovered your kidneys failed. I read that you were diagnosed 13 years ago in July of 2012. Is that correct?
Yep, correct. The racetrack was coming back to our area, and I was starting a new job on Monday. So I had been having trouble breathing when I'd lay down. I thought I had bronchitis or something, or a real bad cold. So I told Renee, my girl, I says, look, I says, better go to the emergency room. And I'm not that kind of guy. I wasn't back then, not a big doctor guy, young and tough. Nothing's going to hurt me. I work with 1,000-pound animals. But I says, just to make sure the breathing ain't right. So I went to the emergency room here in Batavia, and they took blood tests and did a few things. And I was waiting. The woman come back in the room, and she says, listen, Mr. Urtel, I don't know how to tell you this. You're going to have to transfer by ambulance either to Rochester or Buffalo, one of the hospitals. We can't treat you here. Your kidneys are total shutdown, and your blood pressure is 232 over 112. She goes, you literally should be having a stroke right now. And, that was a shock. So sure enough, by ambulance, I went to Rochester, and I went to a hospital called Unity. And 8 days later, I started dialysis for 8 years. That's kind of how it went. At first, they thought the kidneys may come back, but they did not. It was tough. Like, I had retinopathy came from that, but the blood pressure was the main cause of it at the time. But it took them a few days. They did biopsies and everything, and in the end, that's where it was. But I had blown blood vessels in my eyes, which led to having to get injections in the eye and stuff to bring them back, which that's another whole story. But they saved them. Again, that's just another thing. It helped, and I found out later that's a part of kidney disease anyway. A lot of them that I had at dialysis had the eye trouble like that and stuff. So, but and once I was in dialysis, it took a little while. The nurse come to me one day and says, Jim, you got to do us a favor. You were scaring the hell out of us when you're sleeping, you're snoring, and we know you must have sleep apnea. And she goes, go get tested. So I says, okay, Connie. And that's when I found out the sleep apnea was the big thing. And they figured that was the cause. Once I was when I took my test, I actually was not breathing for 38 minutes out of the hour. I stopped 98 times breathing. Sometimes it'd be for a couple seconds, sometimes 20 seconds. But in the end, when they added it up, so I had major sleep apnea. And that's what really caused the high blood pressure. Once I was getting treated with the CPAP machine and minor blood pressure medicine, I always stayed stable with the blood pressure. And if I had gone probably for a sleep apnea test before all this, I probably would never have had the kidney failure. But I mean, hindsight's 20/20, of course, but tough lesson to learn. But I tell a lot of people now, sleep apnea, don't let it get out of control. That's definitely for sure a big thing.
When you started dialysis, what modality did you start on? Were you in center? Were you doing dialysis at home? Were you working with a catheter?
Sorry, Jim, the sound kind of cutting in and out. I didn't understand you there.
Okay. When you first started dialysis, were you doing dialysis in center? Were you doing it at home? Did you have a catheter? I know eventually you had a fistula.
Yeah, they had to put a catheter in right into the heart there like they do. And they scheduled the fistula surgery because mine, I had no idea I was in kidney failure. So we scheduled that. We put it. I ended up wearing that heart catheter for about 6 months, which definitely hated. I know everybody that has to wear that doesn't like it. You can't get it wet or anything. If you get infection, it could probably kill you because if you get infection in the heart, it's a bad deal. But we worked the fistula, finally got to working, and I did it at a center. I never did it at home. I was always at the center. Luckily for me, my dialysis center is only about a mile up the road, and an opening popped up within a day or two when I was in the hospital, so I could go there. A lot of times there's a wait list, but I got lucky on that too. So that's where I always did it.
Okay. What was your health like while you were on dialysis? Did you have any issues or complications?
No, I mean, just the normal stuff. I mean, it took me a good probably 8 months to a year to learn all the signs of, when they're trying to find that dry weight, the first time that I did the pass out routine, when they found it, that was probably about 6 to 7 months in, where they finally get that dry weight down to where it goes a little low, your blood pressure drops, and it was instant. The first time I had the pass out up, I mean, it was just like, boom, gone. Luckily, I was talking to the social worker at the time, and they come and give you the saline solution until they can bring it back up and everything. But as I learned down the line, like when I was getting too low or something, I would get like tingling in my feet a little bit. Like you start to learn after you're there a little while. You learn what okay, and you just tell them, and they give you the solution. But other than that, I never really had no other big time issues. The heart stuff, like I say, they told me try and stay in as best as shape as you can. And that's when I got a treadmill and figured, well, I can do that, and you can do that year round here in Western New York. You're not going out walking around too much in the winters. So I always had the treadmill, and I tried to watch the labels and do what they told me, basically. I mean, watch the fluid, watch the salt, and that's what I did.
Okay. While you were on dialysis for 8 years, did any of your clinic mates pass away?
Oh God, I mean, it's brutal, Jim. I mean, I'll tell you this much, that changed the way I look at everything in life. I mean, when you're in there, I mean, you talk to them. I mean, I sat in the one pod, the guy across me, Willie, we talk about fishing all the time. I remember the one Friday, he's like, yeah, Jim, I'm going to Silver Lake, man. The crap you're biting now, I'm going to get him. I'm like, all right, Willie, good luck, buddy. Monday they come in. Willie passed away of heart failure over the weekend, That happened so many times. In 8 years at a dialysis center, we had 16 people on our shift. So there was a lot of people there. And I mean, like I said, listen, Jim, I was lucky. I mean, the stuff I saw in there and the shape that people are in, and what I still see today in meetings that I do with patients, I can go through nothing compared to what a lot of, and most of like the diabetics, I mean, they take a toe off your buddy across the thing, and a few months down the line, it's a foot, then it's a leg, and then maybe the other leg, and then they're gone. That's just brutal. Some of the things that I mean, I had blood pressure issues. Once they were under control, I mean, I just wrote it out and did whatever. But I was one of the younger guys basically in my unit too. I started at 42, and it's just a brutal world to be at. But it makes you think, you know what, the little things in life, not so big a deal anymore. It's just right. It makes you think differently.
You waited 8 years before you had a transplant. Why did you wait so long? What happened to cause the delay over those 8 years?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to know. The thing is, when I went into that, I knew nothing about kidney disease. So all of a sudden, boom, you're on dialysis and you're sitting there trying to figure what the heck happened here. And Strong, like in our area at the time, you had the choice where I live. You had ECMC in Buffalo and URMC in Rochester. I knew the Rochester area more familiar, and URMC, Strong is their other name, Strong, and they're a big university. And, I just says, well, I'll go with them. But I went in there at that time, their wait list, they said the wait time would be about 4 years. So they asked me, did I have any kind of a living donor on the line? I'm like, geez, I'm an only child. And, you're kind of in shock. I'm like, no. And that was kind of the end of the living donor talk. That was it, at least with that center. So I said, well, I'm on dialysis. I'm going to write it out. And eventually, hopefully I get that deceased donor. And then the time just kept going. ECMC at that time, they were saying it was about 2 to 3 years. So I said with a year difference or whatnot, I knew the other area better. And like I say, they're kind of were a more famous place in our area at the time. So that's why I went with them. But now the years started adding up. 4 years came. And at 4 years, I got a call the one day from my coordinator. I had taken a scan of my old kidneys. And she calls me on the phone. I'm thinking, boy, I see Strong come up on my phone. I'm like, man, this might be the call for a donor. Answer the phone. She says, listen, Jim, I got bad news. She says, we think you got cancer in both your kidneys. There's cysts all over them. You're probably off the list. Talk about, a blow to the head. I'm like, wow. I went into dialysis the next day, and my head nurse, she says, Jim, what's up? You look down. I'm like, well, Connie, I says, they told me they think I got cancer and I'm off the list probably. She goes, wait a minute. What? She goes, why? I'm like, they said there's cysts all over both my kidneys. She goes, Jim, look around in here. She goes, everybody in here has probably got cysts on their kidneys. She goes, after dialysis for a while, that happens. So she goes, let them make sure. And sure enough, it was not cancer at all. Like, that woman probably never should have said that to me. She was just, a nurse coordinator. But so at that point, that's when things started to go a little bad with that hospital. But then another year came by, Finally, at 6.5 years, I got the call for the first kidney. They called me 11 o'clock at night, and they told me go off the meds, and we'll see you the next morning. They called. They says, we can't use the kidney. It's a no-go. But, I figure, well, I knew once everybody else got that first call, normally within a month or two, they'd get that next call, and not me. Like, it went another year and a half. Finally, 8 years is when they called, and it was the height of COVID, 2020. 2 weeks before that, our head nurse says, listen, you guys waiting on the list, you probably won't get a call for a while with this COVID shutting everything down. And so now I'm thinking, oh my God. But a couple weeks later, boom, there's the call. I went in. But there was a lot of things that kind of went crazy there. The hospital was so full. I didn't even get to go to the regular transplant unit at the time. I was at a side room, and things just got a little crazy with the transplant process there, I think.
Okay. I understand that you were transplanted in July of 2020. Can you tell us a little bit about what went on the day of the transplant?
Yeah, so I got the transplant on 4th of July of 2020, actually. I went in and on the 3rd and woke up on the 4th, about 2 in the morning. And unfortunately, the kidney was not kicking in. And it ended up actually taking 7 days before it started filtering. I was peeing really well, so they said that was a good sign, but I wasn't filtering at all. So I remember sitting there after about the 3rd or 4th day going, man, I waited 8 years, and now I got one that's not going to even work, and they decided to finally give me a dialysis treatment, which we did, and they said that might jumpstart it. And maybe a couple of days, there was a Friday, and the one doctor that I had there told me, look, he says, I got a good feeling. He says, you're making urine. I'm going to be off until Monday. He goes, I wouldn't be surprised if it kicks in and you'll be out of here by Monday. And it did, at least enough for me to go home, and I knew a lot about blood work, but not kidney blood work, with the horses. We never checked their kidney. We didn't ever have that problem. So, I didn't know the numbers of EGFR and all that, of what they meant. I would just go by the doctors, what they would say. And for the first year, I'll tell you, I went through hell with the transplant. I had so much fluid on me. They could not get my blood pressure under control, and they couldn't get the fluid off me, which it was kind of crazy because they gave me Norvasc and a few others. Like they were actually fluid retaining drugs. I would look up and see that, and I brought it up to the doctor, and he's like, oh God, finally they called in a specialist with the blood work. And he said, listen, if my brother needed a blood pressure fixed, he goes, I'd send him to this guy. Well, sure enough, the guy called me on the phone, the doctor, and he says, yeah, he goes, Jim, listen, we'll try this, switched a couple meds around, and he got me on the right track. Within 2 weeks, he had me at least with the blood pressure going down, put me on a good fluid, taking the fluid off, a diuretic. And that was the big thing. I had massive amount. I think I had like 40 pounds of fluid alone that I gained. I went right up. I think I was around 280 pounds or something like that by the time they had done this transplant. I remember sitting there. I couldn't walk from here to the bathroom without being out of air, for a long, when I had the fluid. So finally, when they got that off, I started coming around, and that's where I looked out to try and find, the health programs and stuff like that to help myself. But all along, they're telling me, don't worry about anything. You're doing fine. You'll be all right. But meanwhile, they were testing me for every single test, all the different viruses, all the different things, trying to see if I'm rejecting this kidney, what's up. And I knew something was going off. I'd go to see the doctor. He's, hey, there's my special miracle guy and stuff like that, and I'm thinking, what the heck? I don't know if I'm that, but you want to believe that you're doing okay. And, because you finally got it after 8 years. But, I knew I wasn't really doing too good. And, after we finally got the blood pressure, I started losing some weight, and I got to feeling okay, and I did good, got into the weight workout routines, lost about 53 pounds. And I was feeling okay. And then they're watching the blood work. They didn't list the EGFR number on there until about maybe 2 years ago. There was a thing that happened where, I don't know, something about race where the certain people, their EGFRs are determined differently than others. So they started listing it. first time I seen my EGFR, it was a 24. And I says, gee, it says lower than 60 is kidney disease on there. So I called my main nurse and I said, gee, what's the deal with the 20? Oh, Jim, don't worry about that. She goes, you only got one kidney, so your number's totally different. I mean, kind of the whole time they didn't want me to know the real truth of how, where I really was at, I guess. But I guess the best, when I went back on my blood work, the best I had was a 26 EGFR after the transplant. And back last year, or about a year and a half ago, it was June, my creatinine spiked by 0.4 in one blood draw. They drew my blood every month. I've always been on that. I've never gone any farther than that. And it had spiked, so we did extra testing to see if I was rejected. I wasn't, so I had my meeting with my doctor, my standard meeting. I went in and I walked in the room and he says, gee, Jim, he goes, you look good. I was like, well, okay, Charlie, was I not supposed to look good? I didn't think that I was in as bad a shape as I was, but he says, yeah, your blood work shows that you qualify to be back on the transplant list. I'm like, whoa, I definitely didn't think that, but that's what I said. Doc, I said, how does this happen? I'm not rejecting it. And then my doctor, he says, well, listen, if we go back to the biopsy we did 3 months after transplant, it showed that there was 40 to 50% scar tissue in that kidney. And now I went back and read the report, and sure, the guy who read it, the pathologist, stated right in the report, this kidney had very much scar tissue, far more. It couldn't have happened from the surgery, and it states right in there it probably should not have been used. So their whole routine on it, I had big meetings. I called in with UNOS. They sent a representative, and they mainly came in the end. They didn't really take responsibility of what are you going to do. It's in me. But they kind of blamed the length of time it was out. They said that it tested good beforehand, but the day I went low, that kidney never got in me for about 32 hours from the time it left the other person. So I think that between all that, between COVID, between all the different things, that's kind of probably what happened, why it didn't wake up as quick, the damage that got, whatnot. In the end, I mean, I got to live with it, and that's what I did. I've pressed on, and, I've managed to keep that going. But I do need another one now. I mean, it's gotten to the point where I'm on the list, and hopefully I don't have to do dialysis again and can find a donor before that happens. But it's been a battle, Jim.
Sounds like it. I understand that they told you at one point in time that your transplanted kidney may only last you a couple of years. And how long has it lasted now?
It's 5 years in July. It'll be 5 years. So it's
and that's mainly because of the exercise and the diet and.
Yeah, for sure. At least I would have to surely think that. Like I say, I was trying to do the same routine as I was during dialysis, watching diet, but like what I got with that Fifth Father project and changing the diet where, more vegetables. And now, like, I have a friend, Elaine Perlman, she's involved with the End Kidney Death Act. She's gotten me to do vegetarian more, and it's actually helped me a lot because I do got to watch my protein. Like, they only want me taking about 60 grams of protein a day, and the plant-based protein is way doing better for me than the meat-based. And believe me, I love to have a piece of meat here and there, but, since I made that change more, it's definitely helped me. My numbers have gotten a little bit better, so, hats off to her with that diet plan too. But, I'm doing everything I can do to make that go. Before I ever got a transplant, I always told myself, look, no matter what, if I get this, I made a promise that I'll do everything I could possibly do to make the kidney work. Somebody's going to die and I'm going to get that thing. And I just always had that in my head. No matter what, I got to do all I can do to make that last. And even though I got one that was damaged, look, that guy's still dead and I'm still here. So I got to do what I got to do to make that keep going for him and whatnot. That's just the way I take it, look at it.
Okay. What is the current condition of your transplanted kidney? Has it continued to deteriorate? What's going on?
Yeah, it's been a slow deterioration throughout the time. Like I say, I started out with an EGFR. The best I had was 26. And right now I'm at about 18, 19. I've been kind of in that range, but it's been a real slow, just a slow decline kind of throughout. I try to maintain and do the best I can. But, legitimately, I've only dropped about 8. But starting out as low as I did, it's just kind of a tough thing. But again, I've been lucky. A lot of times that probably wouldn't last so long, but I've been able to make that work for one way or the other. Strong will, diet, exercise, whatever it is. I mean, I think everything together, and and all the meetings and the attitude. I think you got to stay positive, and believe me, I do so many Zoom meetings with other groups, and found it, which that's a big difference now too, compared to when I was at URMC. They don't tell you nothing about any other group meetings, and all the groups out there in our area to help you. ECMC, within the first week, I wasn't even officially listed there yet. I was still in their testing process. They're sending me emails of all these different groups to join and this and that. And that's kind of how I have found all the different groups that I have. I mean, including you, like Kidneys for Community, all that stuff. So it's just been great.
I read, Jim, that you're currently looking for living kidney donors. Is that the story?
Yep. I've done quite a lot of campaigning. Luckily, before I got the first deceased transplant, after so many years, I started looking on YouTube, trying to find anything that could help me out in the process. I was getting a little desperate at that point. And I found a woman on there somehow named Pamela Dufresne. And she was working with a group at that time. And I messaged her through the Facebook, and she got me hooked with that group. And she told me, listen, hold out, try and find a living donor. We do this. We find them. And, I was like, yeah, Pam, it sounds good. But I mean, I've been 8 years. If I get that call, I'm going to have to take it. And sure enough, about a month or two after I met her, I did get the call and went and got the deceased. And then as it worked out, once they told me where I was a year and a half ago or whatnot, and how I was going to be back on the list, I still had her contact information. So I messaged her, and she got back to me and says, oh, yeah. She goes, Jim, gee, I was thinking about you. Yeah. She goes, I've moved on now, and I work with a different group called Kidneys for Communities. So she says, I'll give you their information. And they reached out to me, and they helped me do a lot. I mean, if not for them, I wouldn't have had any clues to really how to go about finding a donor. But they helped me as far as they got a public relations group. They said, try and get interviews with your news stations. And I did. I managed to get a news station interview with Buffalo Channel 2 News and Rochester Channel 10 News. And they came out. They came to the racetrack, Channel 2. We went, her name is Alex Rios, the interviewer. And we did it from the racetrack, focused with the horses. The next day, 20 people called. I want to help the horse guy, and we went from there, and people started calling. We went through a lot of them getting tested, and it is a tough thing to get them through the testing. I mean, one has made it through there so far. It's still in the process, hoping that works out. But a lot of them, all the other ones got rejected for one thing or the other. So still looking. Kidneys for Communities, then they put a billboard up by the Buffalo Bills Stadium, and we put a picture of my cat asking to help her friend Jim, and had the website helpjim.live, which goes to my profile page at Kidneys for Communities. And there it is. And that I got calls that way too from them. And I used that. I went on Facebook. I joined a bunch of cat lovers groups. Some of them had 1 million followers. I put that billboard up and ran that. And sure enough, a bunch of people, the same thing, reaching out. Boy, I want to help. The cat thing went, and another had about 25 more people that actually called up, tried the process, listen, same thing. I mean, get eliminated. Some of them bowed out. Some of them were young. Some of them through a med. Some of them, a little overweight. I mean, it's quite a process. You got to really be healthy to donate, but it happens. And that's what I'm still hoping for. Yep. Still pushing ahead and trying.
Okay, folks. So you understand the things that Jim is talking about now, his efforts to try and find a living kidney donor. The links to those things are pinned to the comments to this broadcast. And his broadcast is pinned to the top of my personal page. So if you go to Jim Myers on Facebook and you go into the comments, all the things that we're talking about now, there are links. Kidneys for Communities, Beating the Odds, his YouTube channel, the cat billboard, the Fit Father podcast, the article from the United States Trotting Association, the 2 news articles from Batavia News, the Buffalo TV News Channel 2 articles. All of those things are contained in the comments to the broadcast, pinned at the top of my Facebook page. So if you want more information about Jim, you can go there and find out. Jim, tell us a little bit about the Fit Father podcast.
Yeah, the Fit Father group, that was the one that they helped me. That was the workout group that helped me along with the routines and everything that I do and learn through them. He's quite a big Dr. Anthony Balduzzi runs that program, and it does it for basically it's targeted for men over 50. And his father died at a young age of cancer when he was a little boy, and he made a pledge to himself to be healthy, and he wanted to help other people so they never had to go through that, lose their fathers young, and he geared it towards that, and he's done great. And that guy's all over, and he's a doctor himself, which is what drew me to him, because I figured he would have a better idea to help me. And we did the podcast. Like I got a hold of him. He does a podcast all the time, goes over, and we did that. It was about an hour. Went into like me overcoming. I have a fistula, which is very big still, and I have to really watch my weight stuff and everything. So that was I had to tweak his program to work for me. And he helped me along with that. And he says, I get it. And, they've got coaches there and everything, and they're great. So we talked about that on the podcast, and, that his podcast goes off over all kinds of social media too, as well. So I'm not sure if we had anybody, trying to get tested through there, but I know it goes through a lot of people. So very well could have.
Okay. We talked about a couple articles, the United States Trotting Association article, the Batavia News article, the Buffalo News Channel 2 article, and then the Rochester Channel 10 article. And then you did a second interview with the Buffalo News Channel 2 group. Can you tell us a little bit about those interviews?
Yeah, I got that's one thing too. The USTA, the United States Trotting Association, that's like the body that overruns all your licensing and everything for the harness racing industry. And that's where the Kidneys for Community said you want to work with what you do. So in other words, your occupation or like your groups that you're in. And I told him horse racing. And he said, well, gee, I don't know. So that's where I reached out to the head of them. And Dan Leary, his name was. And he's been awesome. They did the article. They have the websites. Like they have a very big social media presence too now because the sports betting's in on with that along with the horses. So they have website. Everything's always updated every single day. And they did my story. They did a great job with it. And they put that out. They also have a magazine that goes worldwide called Hoofbeats. We put an article in there as well that was all circulated everywhere. And I still talk with him. I became friends with him now. I talk with him quite often and stuff. And he's a great guy. They help me. Alex Rios Malvia, she's the reporter from the Buffalo News. She was the first news reporter that I sent out my story and emails to all the channels around here, the local news channels, Rochester and Buffalo. And she was the first. She reached out back to me and says, yeah, I'd like to do your story. And it took a little while to get it all scheduled and everything. And we did it at the racetrack. And she was great. She came down, set up. We did it with the horses. And she did it. I mean, when she comes, she really puts an effort into it. I mean, she takes all kinds of angles and pictures and everything. We shot for about 3 hours to make a 2-minute news article. I mean, unbelievable. And about a month or two ago, she called me again. She says, listen, how's it going? And I was like, yeah, okay. Still try. Yep. That was from the racetrack interview. She called me. I'd like to do a follow-up. You want to do one? I'm like, gee, that's awesome. Sure, Alex. She goes, well, I'll come to your house. It was January. So we did it from the house. She came here. We shot a bunch of stuff, talked, did some stuff. And then she went to the billboard and took filming there and put all that together, the whole story from shooting till that, and had it on the 6 o'clock news that night. So she's awesome. And I told her, I says, Alex, listen, if the hospital agrees, when I do get this transplant, I'd like you to be there. If you want to finish the story, we'll film it from there, because I know that a lot of people with dialysis have a little bit of a fear of getting a transplant. I was one of them. You start to get to where, what, I'm doing okay on this. I can get by, and you got to get a transplant. I mean, you're going to have a healthier outcome if you do. Dialysis eventually is going to get you. My nephrologist explained that to me. So I feel as though people have those fears. If we can do that and close the story on the news like that and show you, listen, it's not that bad. Maybe it can help somebody else. I mean, that's I want to help all these other patients now. And I've been through a lot. So I do the Zoom meetings. I do everything I can do to advocate for others as well. I mean, I'm in the fight certainly to try and find a donor for myself. But in the meantime, I've had a lot of them where I've turned them towards, the different groups that I know of to try and help them as well. I wish we could get a kidney for everybody, Jim. It's a tough thing. But.
Me too. Talk to me a little bit about your experience with Kidney Solutions and Kent Bressler, Shannon Milroy.
Yeah, I that's just one of the groups, like looking around on social media and everything, somehow or another, it came up in my site. And, I just contacted them and sent them more or less the group meetings like that, the Zoom meetings. I think that is the most important thing in the world, those meetings like that, for patients to get together, tell their stories, where everybody, you're in a group with other people that have been through that. That's amazing. The first 8 years when I was on dialysis, I had no idea none of that ever existed. I went at it my own and with my dialysis people at dialysis. That's it. It's a shame that so many people don't have any clue that there's groups out there. I mean, since I've been hooked up with ECMC here now, I know there's like the Kidney Foundation of Western New York, Kidney Solutions. There's just groups all over the place. Like my group there, Kidneys for Communities, they're great and they're everywhere. You do got to seek them out. And once you do that, you can help. And those Zoom meetings are just awesome. Kent, he runs a great program. Shannon Milroy. You can't beat what they do. Congratulations to Kent, by the way. As you know, 38 years transplant today. That's just amazing, awesome stuff. But those groups where people can support each other, tell the stories, just great things.
Okay, you also have a website, www.helpjim.live. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's really not my website, but what that was is they used that link to go to my profile page at Kidneys for Communities. So when you go to that helpjim.live, it'll take you to Kidneys for Communities. It'll be my page. It's got my pictures, my story, tells how you can donate to me and everything. That's just what they came up with that to go on the billboard. There's a second billboard, the one you had the picture of earlier there. That was the initial thing where they had that. And then they ended up switching it over to helpjim.live because it's just an easier thing, I think, to remember, more or less, is why they did that. But that's what that is, though. It's basically a link to my profile page at Kidneys for Communities.
Beautiful. I understand that you are currently listed at ECMC in Buffalo, New York. And scrolling across the screen now is the number to call and an email address if you want to donate to Jim. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with ECMC?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So far, I haven't gotten the new transplant yet, but I'll tell you this much. It's like night and day between them and URMC as far as for my experience. Number one, they're rated, I think, in the top 3 in the country now as turnover rate for deceased donor. I think their average wait time now is only around a little over a year for like A positive and O positive. Rochester now, URMC, I think they're listing at like 5 or 6. They're telling you year wait. So that alone in the wait period, but just the way they've handled things, the ECMC is like, they're the ones that made sure that I knew about all these extra groups that can help you out, support groups. And they themselves, every month they have a meeting. You go right to the hospital up there. They have it in one of the rooms where all the kidney people, they'll have special guests. Doctors will come on. Dr. Kaler runs that transplant center. She's great. They'll come out. They do that. She does video Zooms all the time on their Facebook page. They're just great for that. We're the different, like URMC, they had none of that. I spent 8 years there. I never heard of a support group. Any kind of think of nothing like that. They are hooked up with NKR, which is a great organization as well. But you got to have a donor. At least, were my experience, you had to have a living donor before they would even be involved at all. I was never told about NKR the whole time that I was listed in Rochester ever. I found out later on about them. So, ECMC, my group, my donor group, once I got in with Kidneys for Communities, I had 4 donors on the line that they had gone through. They did the pre-testing. They even sent them out a DNA kit to narrow down the best options. I had 4 donors ready to go when I contacted URMC. They wouldn't even take a phone call from my group. They said they were strictly hooked up with NKR, and that was that. So that's why I sought out from that point on. I went to ECMC. they were like, sure, bring them on. We will, any group that we can work with that'll help out. And now they're hooked up with them. I was the first patient. Kidneys for Communities, they're actually hooked up with the Alliance for Paired Kidney Donation. And they were trying to get hooked into there before me, but I was the first patient to actually be, okay, we got a patient now. So now they're there to help other people as well. So that's kind of cool. I'm glad that, at least I was able to help with that a little bit. And they work with them. But the difference between them, I think so far, I mean, I haven't got the transplant yet, but up until the point, they're awesome. So,
Great.
I hope everything goes well.
What is your current status as far as a donor goes? So any bites toward direct or paired donation?
Yeah, they will work. Like that's another big reason I think it's important to have those groups like that. They can help you out. Like the Alliance for Paired Kidney Donation, they're hooked through Kidneys for Communities, so they'll do that paired donation and everything. If you got a donor, you don't have to be a full match to me. If you want to donate, you get through the testing process, they'll pair you up now, and it's a great thing anyway because they want the best outcome. So even if you have a donor that's a match to you, there may be a better match for you, and that donor you bring in might be a better match for somebody else. So it's actually working. That's a little bit new in the last couple of years where they started doing more of the paired donation and the kidney voucher and stuff. But I think it's a really good program. That's going to help a lot, I think.
Okay, and to this day, you're with your kidney, you're still beating the odds, right?
Yeah, that's kind of it, man. I'm the war horse. I got to keep rolling. I stay positive, and I don't feel bad. I mean, there's some days I'm a little tired here and there, but I mean, look, I do my workouts, I do my walking on the treadmill, I do my weights, I watch my diet, as immensely as I can. Taking the water. I do listen to. You got to listen to the doctors. I know a lot of people. I mean, I see in a lot of the Facebook groups and stuff. You'll see some of them come on there and be like, I don't like the meds. I don't want to do this. You still got to be involved. I mean, you do got to try and do your exercise. Try and help yourself. I think it's an important thing. I mean, if you don't try to help yourself, you really can't expect somebody else to. And that's kind of it. Like, I just take that out. Like I say, my deceased donor, I made the pledge. Like, I got to keep going until I can't. And that's what I do. And for a living donor that comes along, it's the same thing. I mean, I'm going to do all I can possibly do to keep on rolling and do the right thing. And I know some of the people that I know that did get transplants, they opened it up. Oh, I'm good again. They went out and you just don't do the right thing. And they're not here no more. I mean, there was a few of them from my center that's how it went. So, I can't imagine that. I think, I mean, it's especially somebody that's a living donor does that. How can you not give everything you got to do the right thing? I mean, that's just how I'm built. And I think, a lot of that did come from the horses. I helped a lot of horses that needed help. And, I love the animals. And, it's kind of, it's not the same thing, but in my mind, it instilled that if you do the right thing and you work hard on things, you can get the better outcome. So that's
excellent.
It.
You mentioned Elaine Perlman, and I understand that you are a supporter of the End of Kidney Deaths Act. Can you please tell us why you support the act?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Elaine's a great woman, and she puts her all into that. Like, she's the head of trying to get that passed. It's a bill. It just got reintroduced into the House of Representatives again, and we're hoping to get this into this budget. What it'll do is it'll give a $10,000 tax credit for 5 years, and to a person who donates to a stranger, and the kidney would go to the person on the top of the list, more or less. And they were trying to bring more living donors into the pool to help. And right now, I think there's 97,000 on the list looking for a kidney. And unfortunately, probably 50,000 of them aren't going to ever get that shot, at least, or try to even get a kidney. There's so many people that never even get a chance to ever get even a deceased donor. The pool, unfortunately, it's just small, and living donation is even smaller, and it's a tough thing. So it's an incentive. A lot of people are against it and say, you're paying for the kidney and everything. But I mean, I don't think that's really the case. You got to try and do something. I mean, it is what it we've contacted tons of Elaine has spoken to, I think, every House of Representative member, every Congress member there is. She's had meetings at one for another. They've been into Washington. I have written my New York senators. I've talked with them both. You got to do everything we can do, and hopefully we can get that in. There was a recent article published by 4 doctors that are not even from our country, and they put in there, and it got circulated around to a lot of these Congress members saying they're against it and everything else. And Elaine called me and said, look, you better put a comment on that story. So I put a pretty scathing comment in there and told them how I felt. But I mean, doctors from other countries, and I think the big thing, there's a big pushback because nephrologists, unfortunately, they make more money off of dialysis than they do a transplant. Your nephrologist, most of the time, you're going to move to another doctor, and it's money. And it's a sad thing, but money in the world, it runs everything. Unfortunately, in the health business and medical world, that's a big deal. And dialysis, it will save tax money as well, because a lot of the people on dialysis are on Medicare or Medicaid. So, in the end, that transplant's cheaper than it is for dialysis. Dialysis is very, very expensive. So if we can get more people transplanted, you'll save tax dollars and lives. And that's the goal of that. So we're trying as hard as we can. And Elaine, God bless her, she does everything she possibly can. So we hope that gets to the finish line.
Elaine made a post recently where it's estimated that the act could save 100,000 lives and generate $14 billion in tax savings by the 10th year. So it's pretty serious stuff, and we hope people continue to support it. And like you, I've contacted all my members of Congress in Indiana.
Yep. It's going to be a 10-year pilot program, more or less. And, you might get more. A lot of people say, well, you need more than 50,000, but you got to have a starting point. And, right now there's nothing like that out there. And we're trying. New York State, where I'm at, actually in 2023, there was the legislation passed to give $16,000 towards expenses for a living donor that would come forward and everything. So far, there hasn't been one dime put out towards anybody on that. And it was passed in 2023. That's another thing we're working on, trying to get, what's going on here. Supposedly it's coming around now where the governor is trying to get that restarted up again. But I mean, there's so much money that goes towards other things in that. Here, these are American citizens that, the legislation was passed and no money has been put forward yet. So that's another thing. We're trying to work on that as well,
Okay. Do you have any final statements that you wish to make to our audience tonight before we conclude the broadcast for the evening?
Well, like I say, just stay positive. I mean, I know that I've met so many people in this battle with me now. It's amazing to me how many people have come together for me to help me just alone. Total strangers, like from news reporters to people that come out to people who have stepped up and tried to donate to the groups that are out there. There's support out there if you seek it out and can find it. Like the world today, everybody's at each other's throat for politics or whatnot and everything, I mean, even me, I got my own opinions, but it amazes me how people are at each other for everything, where when things get bad, everybody will come together for you. I mean, I've had people of every race, from doctors to everything, to every sexual preference to whatnot. And you know what? They've all worked to help me, and nobody gives a damn about that. Like it's too bad the whole world can't be like that all the time. Like that's kind of, I say that a lot to a lot of people, and it's amazing. We come together when tragedy happens. It's too bad it can't be like that all the time.
Well, wow, what a great broadcast tonight, Jim. I appreciate you taking time to come on and share your story and talk to us a little bit about raising horses and the end of Kidney Deaths Act, and a little bit of your advocacy work on your YouTube channel. How many YouTube videos have you done now?
Well, I got into that it's been a little while since I put one up there. I got involved with all this other stuff with the End Kidney Deaths Act and everything, but I think I got about maybe 10 to 12 on there. And there's just a lot of different things that I went through that I think people, if they go there and check that out, that are going through some of the same things, from eye injections for retinopathy to the dialysis to, just the workout programs and everything else, how you can help yourself and stay positive and I just felt it important. I mean, I've been in this with a lot of people. I've met a lot of people that go through this disease, and you want to try and help them all. Like I say, I mean, I'm still in the battle too, but I mean, I think that becomes kind of your family a little bit. You're in that dialysis group, and then you lose people, and I think until you go through it, it's just like anything, cancer or whatnot. Until you're actually the one going through that, you don't really know what it's like. So for all of us to do battle it, we got to kind of be in that battle together and help each other out. That's how I look at that.
Great. Well, Jim, I appreciate you coming on. You're free to go if you choose to do that. I have to little bit of a discussion with our audience. I need to talk to them about what's going to happen on this Friday. But what a tremendous job that you did tonight, and I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Oh, thank you, Jim. It's been nothing but a pleasure. Believe me, I'm so glad I got to do this with you. You do a great job, and you're an awesome advocate, man. You do a lot. So
I appreciate
great.
that, buddy.
Okay, Jim. You take care, buddy. Thanks a lot.
All right. You have a good night.
All right.
All
you
right.
Too.
That is our broadcast for the evening. On Friday. Oh, if I can reach it. On Friday, I'm having the author of this book on. That's Abby Gray and her husband, Reed. Reed is a liver transplant patient. He had bile duct issues to the point where they were concerned about him getting cancer. And he miraculously got a liver transplant. Abby has pregnancy and infertility issues. She had intravenous surgery to have children, and they ended up having miracle twins. So it should be a great broadcast on Friday, same time, 7:00 p.m. So you want to check us out. I want to thank you for tuning in tonight, and we will see everybody on Friday because we're fired up for that broadcast, man. So I'll talk to you on Friday. Great job tonight by Jim. Make sure you share this broadcast to your friends, okay? All right, we'll talk soon.